Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers Championship, driving the Group 4 cars at Autodrome Lagos Maggiore. I think it's the East version that we used for this. Quite a short track. It doesn't go all the way down the hill through the banked camber hairpin at the bottom. So this is a track that I've not really done much in any sort of classic car, I believe, is as we go through the field. Now, again, these tracks not my strongest. I tend to be stronger on the real life tracks like Interlagos, Fuji, Suzuka. When it comes to the fictional tracks, I tend to be lacking a bit of pace, and that was the case for this round. Also, this was still one of the races where we were racing when the physics or something was slightly off for me. It seems, like I said, I've mentioned it in previous videos, patch 1.44 seemed to have fixed it slightly for myself. I seem to be back up to speed with the grip and the traction and not using as much tyres as before. I was getting a lot of understeer around this time, but what I managed to do in this qualifying was, it was actually quite a good lap. You can see P10 on a 1 minute 23.9. It was insanely close this qualifying, probably the closest qualifying I've seen in quite some time, from like P3 all the way to P10, just a tenth or two separating a wide range of cars. But I was happy with that P10. I think if you compare that to I think in split 2, that time would have been good enough for a top 5 start, but because we're in obviously top split, we're starting down in P10, and obviously it's going to be a hard battle from there, because I expected to go backwards in this race, and brutally honest, I didn't really expect to be able to go forwards, because like I say, the track didn't really suit me. I can't really say the car was bad here, because you see Tiara Latham managed to put it in the top 3, but he was absolutely flying around there, very much like he was at Brown's. Actually, he was able to deal with the tyre wear very well. But like I say, I'm hoping since the physics change, or there's something that's changed for me personally, whether there was some issue going on with the latest patch, seems to have helped me out a bit. And this was, I think, the final race in the manufacturers before obviously the update came out that sorted it out. So we'll be covering our final race in manufacturers in the Group 3 at Catalunya in another video. But for this race, starting P10, and the aim really is to hang on, literally hang on for as long as we can, because the pace was not brilliant here. We've got Matty in front of us in the Lexus, we've got Cupertom in the Alfa Romeo 4CS. We're trying to heat our tyres, and we see a lot of people weaving a little bit before we get into this braking zone, just to warm some front tyres up, so you've got the grip going into this very tight few corners. You want a good positive front end, obviously through these slow corners. If the car understeers, you tend to lose a lot of time. But you can see, I did actually put a bit of practice, not massive amount in. We did, I think, a race or two the night before, where the pace wasn't brilliant in them, but I did actually manage to get my pace up quite a bit. As you can see, I think we were practicing at one point, we were doing 1 minute 25s in qualifying, and managed to get that down to a 23.9. so pace did improve. There was a few areas where I think I could have improved a bit more, to do with where I was doing lines through the corner. You see, running very wide through that corner. That was mainly due to the understeer, obviously being so close to Matty down that straight, and then suffering with lack of aero, but totally missed the apex. But now we've got to try and get back into that slipstream. You can see very close to losing it there, and this section of the track I was really struggling on. It seemed like you had to take like a very aggressive line through these corners, cutting the corners off quite drastically. You couldn't, the normal line that you would take was quite slow compared to the cut line that a lot of people were doing. There was a couple of corners which I'll highlight to you when we see it happening, where I really wasn't taking advantage of as much track as I probably could have done, as Matty running extremely wide out of the final corner there, but just about getting away with it in that Lexus. And myself, fairly smooth for there, ran a little bit wide, but not as bad as what Matty did. But the Alfa 4C behind me, lurking in the distance. We all know that the Alfa 4C in these races where it's mainly about tyre wear, that car will become very strong as the race goes on. Obviously it does struggle with straight line speed, but through corners like this it can just carry so much more speed than the Mustang, the Lexus for example. But at the moment we're in the slipstream, so we're able to just hang on in there. He's getting dirty air behind us as Matty runs extremely wide out that corner yet again. Gets away with it for another time. So close to losing it and binning it there, but he hangs on, and he just about survives to fight another day basically, as the Alfa 4C looking very, again through that corner, that long sweeping right hand corner where we go down the hill and you've got to clip the apex. That Alfa 4C does look very, very strong behind me. And I did know that. I pretty much knew that I was going to fight this Alfa 4C, but I'm not going to fight it so much that I'm going to lose time. There's not much point. But the good thing is, obviously, the Mustang down the straight was so much more powered, had a lot more speed down the straight. I didn't really have to go too defensive. You can see at the moment I'm not having to go defensive on the right hand side, because because of that acceleration zone, that Alpha just can't really get in a position to launch one up the inside, and Cuperton obviously not going to risk too much there. Again, not really able to do much there, but just trying to hang on to Matty in front of us. You can see starting to struggle already. We're coming to the end of lap 2. You're starting to see a bit of tyre wear degradation on the fronts. That is where I was struggling with. You can see my brake bias was 4 to the rear. I think probably I should have kept it at 5 to the rear. I did try 4 to the rear for this race just to see if I could hang on in there basically to the slipstream, give myself a bit better handling car for some laps, but that was going to use up some of the front life a little bit more. But like I say, it's not a massive difference between 4 to the rear to 5 to the rear. Either way, you're doing quite a bit to save the front tyres, but for me, it wasn't quite enough. I don't think my style of driving really suited this track for the way the car wears the tyres. There are some tracks when I seem to be able to look after the tyres. There are some tracks that I don't seem to be able to look after the tyres. In general, I seem better at the real life tracks. Like I say, we said it before, we've seen it by my results in many top speed races. When it comes to a real life track, I'm a lot more competitive than I am at a fictional track like this. I don't know if it's because I'm just used to driving the real life tracks on other games as well, so they're just more in my head. I just get more in a rhythm maybe. I'm not 100% sure. As Matty in front of us there picking up a penalty, you saw he was ultra aggressive on the cut on the really fast flowing corners, and actually picked up half a second penalty there, which is going to affect him. But I think he's about 1 second ahead there, so I don't think he's actually going to lose a place because of the way the penalty system works. Half a second basically costs you about 6-7 tenths of a second, depending on the track and where the penalty zone is. Some tracks it can be more detrimental than other tracks. This track, I don't think it was massively bad, although it was in a place it would affect you, but the track didn't really have any massively long straights as we go through this really twisty section. You can see how close the racing still is in this lobby. You can see the train of cars that is all the way pretty much from the leaders all the way to myself. You can see as the Alpha 4C got with extreme amount of traction through there, goes for a move, a great move by Cuperton. There was no point in me fighting him too hard there. I gave him space on the right hand side. I didn't really want to battle too much because it was only going to cost me more time, so I just kept it on the left hand side, braked reasonably earlier just to let him take the inside line, and then I was just going to tuck up back beneath him and pick up the slipstream behind that Alpha 4C. You can see there, picking up the slipstream now up the hill, very close to him. There was no point in me going for a move. I could have probably thrown one up the inside, but like I say, there's no point. The 4C was so much faster than what I could get out of that Mustang at this stage. The Alpha 4C obviously a bit better suited to this track in terms of race pace, maybe not qualifying, and that's probably why it struggled a little bit in qualifying compared to the Mustang that I am driving now. But you can see behind me also we have the Jaguar and the Hyundai, which were also quite strong cars here, but again I think they were going to suffer with tyre wear, but for some reason I was suffering more than most with tyre wear at this combination. As we come to end another lap and start another lap, you see that we're about just coming up to halfway through the race, just short of halfway through, and you can see that front tyre wear is starting to show up. You can see it on the telemetry there, but it's trying to stay as much as I can with Cuperton while he's obviously trying to battle with Matty. This is giving me the opportunity to stay in the slipstream, but look up ahead, you can see a car has a penalty. I think that's just half a second penalty, so again that car is not going to lose a massive amount, but you can see the gap to the leader isn't drastic, although you can see in the distance it's just pretty much the train race that goes on in these races. But I knew that I was going to be going backwards in this race and wouldn't really be able to make much progress. It was very similar, like I say, to Dragon Trail Gardens, another fictional track. There are some tracks that I'm fairly okay on that are fictional, like Dragon Trail Seaside, not too bad. But when it comes to the Gardens track, I tend to struggle a bit, and I think it's a similar situation at this track. It is a strange situation why it happens. Maybe I don't practice them as much because I don't quite like them as much. I don't know, because I tend to prefer the real life tracks over the fictional one, so it could be something to do with that, as I don't put as much effort in. But either way, I just wanted to have a bit of fun here and just see if we could defend from the drivers behind. I knew that the Jaguar was going to suffer a bit on tyre wear, but RC Snake clearly had more pace than me round this combination in race stream. You could see he was, I think in the previous race to this, he was also all over the rear, and I managed to defend from him with some very good defensive driving. And it's going to be a case of, can I repeat that? As you can see, cars battling up ahead. There is a lot. I mean, you can just see if we would have got maybe a 2/10 better in qualifying, I could be all the way up in P4 5 now. That shows you how close these top splits are, because we're not actually a massive distance behind. I think it's P7, 6, 5. P4 is just up there. P3, P2. You can literally see P1. That is how close this racing is, as Cuperton makes a move on Matty there, dives up the inside, very similar to how he did it to me. That was the area of the track that he was able to make a move due to his car having much better front tyres and able to hold that apex much better than the FR cars that myself and Matty are driving, and also the Jaguar behind me. But now he's got a little bit of a harder battle coming up here. He's got to overtake a Cayman, which will also be quite strong on the front end, as RC Snake having a little look up the inside there, but I didn't really need to worry about that, because there really is not an opportunity to make a move on that corner. It's a 4th gear corner. It's taken quite fast. He was just doing that just to try and unsettle me. I do it a lot of the time. You try and make the person see you in the mirrors, make sure that they're aware that you're being aggressive. As you see, I'm going to possibly have to go defensive here. We're going to go for a middle of the track line, brake nice and early, try and hold the apex and get into 3rd gear very early to get a nice traction out of the corner. I actually did that really well, and nearly picking up the slipstream from the car in front. I'm not sure if we're just about in that slipstream range, which will help me out down this straight now into turn 1, into that heavy braking zone. And again, this race, you'll notice again, very, very short. We've talked about it all season. I am praying that they will go back to some sort of how they used to do these races, like the old top 24 races, the old FIA races used to be normally in general 1 to 2 laps longer than the daily race C, but we've now come to a situation where we're about 4 laps shorter than daily race C. I really hope it changes, but will it? I really don't know, as we now head our way down into that really tricky corner. We're going to have to go defensive here. You can see myself all the way to the right hand side of the track. I'm going to defend against RC Snake a little bit more aggressively than that 4C, because obviously the 4C is a much stronger car. There wasn't really much point in battling that much to the 4C, but the Jaguar fairly similarly matched to the Mustang, so I'm going to do my best to defend against RC Snake, and I think it's RC A50 right behind him as well in that Hyundai. No free places given here. We're going to defend as much as I can all the way into the next braking zone. You see, very tricky through this section. There's a lot of fast corners. The Mustang and also the Jaguar do struggle on these corners. I'm going to go really defensive on the inside. You can see Snake's on the left hand side. We're going to give him space. Afo's also out there, so I had to give quite a bit more space than what I would have liked, and that's compromised my exit a bit there, but we managed to still get on the throttle reasonably well. You can see Afo all over the rear as well, really starting to struggle, but you can see the cars in front. There is obviously cars struggling up ahead. It's very close racing going on. We're going to have to go defensive into turn 1, but Snake turns in a little bit too early there, I felt. I stayed all the way to the left. He did give me a little nudge, which unsettled my car, and then I tried to go around the outside, and he did squeeze us out a little bit. Aggressive, but I would say fair driving by RC Snake, and then I had to pretty much give up that position to Afo as we go through that left hand corner. I tried to battle it, but again, we're stuck on that outside line. Not really much I can do from that position, and we lose 2 places. Maybe I could have defended a little bit different there. I'm not too sure. Snake did turn in a little bit early and pretty much compromised the entry and the exit for the next corner because Afo took the inside line. But now we're just going to try and hang on in here now. You can see there's no one really behind me. We've got quite a big gap, over 5 seconds to the next car behind. So it looks like we've got P13 sorted. I tried to defend as much as I could to these cars up ahead of me. You can see we lost a bit there. You can see we weren't far behind Matty before that battling, and they were very close to a massive group of other cars. But it looks like for this next 2 laps we're just going to have to sit in now and take this position, because you can see that they're pulling away from me now in front. RC Afo is able to really carry more speed through some of them faster corners. It seems like I was really struggling to get the line right with this Mustang once that front tyre wear kicked in. The balance wasn't too bad with the tyre wear. You can see it wasn't too drastically, all the way to the front. I had managed to get the balance better than what I had during the early practice, but still starting to struggle quite a bit. We're still we're in the 1 minute 25-26 zone. I think we needed to be really on lap 8 we needed to be doing low 25s really, but like I say, this is really making me consider a lot of these races, really making me start to consider what manufacturer I want to pick, because I'm starting to realise there are some combinations where I'm very aggressive on tyres, there are some that I'm not so aggressive on, but I think to try and counter the tracks that I'm not so good with tyre wear on, I may be thinking about going to a car on both Group 4 and Group 3 that is really good on tyre wear. That could be a little hint for anyone who is wondering what manufacturer I might pick, because there are only a couple of manufacturers that have that nice balance between Group 3 and Group 4. However, we want to wait for possible BOP changes that might be happening, any updates, and also the schedule to appear. I'm not sure if it's out yet. I want to see what the schedule says for the races before I make any decisions on whether I will pick a certain manufacturer. As we're now on this lap, you can see losing ground all the way on this lap. I kind of gave up a little bit. There was no point me battling too hard. The car was struggling on this final lap. I just wanted to bring it home into P13. This was the second slot of the day. We didn't bother racing the third slot because I was struggling so much. I just felt like this race would do. It was a clean race. It was reasonably fun trying to defend against the car. The pace was okay. It wasn't brilliant. I thought I'd bring it home. P13. I'll take that, and we'll move on to the final race, where I kind of thought I'd be a bit more competitive, because obviously it's Group 3 at a track that I tend to like, Catalunya. I am quite strong again because it's more so a real track, but we'll be catching up with that video further on, maybe in the next few days or so before the next FIA season starts. We're going to try and get all the FIA races completely up to date, and then we can start scratch with the new season. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. It wasn't the best performance by myself. It was a lot of just hanging on in there and trying to defend against people that had a bit more race pace than myself. But I tried my best, and I think I did okay. Could have been better. Obviously, the tyre wear did affect me slightly. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.